Hello everyone, this is David from Automotive Press. As you know, there has been a lot of rumors and speculation coming out of Japan, but which ones are accurate and which ones are not reliable? As a Japanese-born and Japanese-raised engineer, let me demystify, explain to you exactly how to decipher information about future Japanese products. As you know, it's been a very busy few days because so many brands have introduced many interesting products lately, whether it's the Honda Civic hatchback or even a Ferrari hybrid, and of course the Infiniti QX60 was launched as well. So lots of interesting news coming through the media, but I kind of want to focus on things that the media is not reporting in general, so that you are coming to my channel for unique information and something that's a bit different from other channels. So what I really want to clarify today is to help everyone in media and also YouTube channel understand which sources to rely on and which sources to believe when it comes to Japanese brand and Japanese scoops. Lately, as you know, there has been lots of interesting speculation about a potential Lexus sports car based on Toyota GR86 called the UC, and also new power output and horsepower and torque information about a Lexus 600 and even a 750. So before I go into those details, let me first tell you which ones are accurate and which ones are likely very, very speculative. So when it comes to the Lexus UC Sports Coupe, I wanted to clarify a few things because again, I'm kind of a little bit taken back by how quickly it became viral, and so many media is reporting on the Lexus UC as a very accurate information, but the information came from Spider 7. Spider 7 unfortunately is a very unreliable source of scoops. They are not getting information from their own network or their own sources, but they are speculating based on information from other speculative sources, if you know what I mean. So Spider 7 is not very reliable. I would give it like a 20% accuracy out of 100%. And particularly in terms of the Lexus UC coupe, that's supposedly based on the new Toyota GR86, Subaru BRZ or BRZ, well actually it's not very accurate. So first of all, in the article, it does not say it will be called UC coupe. They said, would it not be interesting if the name of the car is called UC based on kind of the naming we use for the UX for the small entry-level SUV. It does not say that they believe it will be called UC. So first of all, that's one information that needs to be clarified right away. Also, there appears to be a photo of what looks like a Lexus coupe, but the body and the overall shape is clearly the Toyota GR86. That photo, if you look carefully, has been photoshopped. The grille, what looks like a Lexus spindle grille, has been photoshopped onto a Toyota GR86 prototype. So that photo is clearly not correct. And so I know lots of media is showing that photo as something to believing. I'm sorry, you cannot believe that photo. Is there a possibility of an actual GR86 based sports car that will be launched below RC? I would give it like less than 15% chance of that happening. There will be, I'm sure, some form of sports car that will stay in the Lexus lineup, whether it's the current RC updated to a new version or potentially another type of a sports coupe. But there is nothing out there in my network or in my sources that says the new sports car from Lexus will be based on the GR86 or Subaru BRZ. So when people use Google Translate to translate the Japanese document of the Spider 7 to English, in a title page they claim that it said Three Brothers Complete, as in the Subaru BRZ, the Toyota GR86, and then now this Lexus UC coupe. The three models complete the circle kind of thing. But in the actual Japanese document, it doesn't say that. It's a question mark. It said, could the three models be like brothers to each other. It doesn't state as a factual statement. It's asking a question that it could be a possibility. If you read the whole article, nowhere in the website does it state this as a very accurate speculation. They said this will be an interesting story should this happen. Of course, they do say that they believe something like a GR86 based Lexus Sports Coupe is a possibility. So the whole article is actually pretty much in question, and I don't believe there will be a GR86 based Lexus Coupe. It's purely a speculation. So that's Spider 7 speculation. I put them sort of a 2 or 3 out of 10 when it comes to reliability for information. Most of the stuff from Spider 7 has not been accurate unless it came from another source, and that source is accurate. So that's hopefully demystified the Spider 7 information. The next most often quoted site is Creative311. So this is the website. Again, it's creative311.com. That website is actually very new. It's not as old as the Best Car magazine or Model X magazine, which is more reliable. And they are what I call consolidator, which means they consolidate information from throughout the web, both international and Japan information, and then they output that as an article. They are a little bit better than Spider 7, but not much more, because most of the information, again, is very speculative. Now, the exception is sometimes they will say, we spoke into a dealership or dealer principals in Japan, and this is what I heard. If they quote that, then that information is more accurate. So for example, when they talked about the Land Cruiser information and they speculate exactly when the order will begin and when the delivery will happen, those information happen to be accurate because it came directly from a dealership. But when it comes to Lexus LX story, there is some huge question mark. So the Lexus LX600 will definitely happen. It will be based on the Land Cruiser's 3.5 twin-turbo V6. Those are all correct information. But when it comes to Lexus LX750h story, where they're combining the engine with a hybrid to produce some outrageous numbers for horsepower and torque, that information is questionable. I would predict that it's about 25% accurate because even in the article in Japanese, they claim that this is our speculation. They did not say that this information came from a dealership or came from an actual inside sources. So Creative311 does a really good job of consolidating information, and they are one of the more interesting places to read articles about future cars from Japan, but they haven't had a good history of accurate information. So I will be very careful about information coming from Creative311, and unfortunately most YouTubers and media is using Creative311 and Spider 7 as two primary sources. The two sources I consider to be the least accurate when it comes to predicting future information. They are both pretty good about presenting current information. So back to the Lexus LX story, while the LX600 and LX750h or something similar will more than likely happen, the horsepower and torque rating in that article is not accurate. And I do not believe Lexus will be able to produce those kind of numbers. So I'm sorry to burst the bubble of everyone who's thinking those huge numbers will then carry over to the Tundra. Isn't going to happen. I predict a much lower number for both the Lexus LX 750h or whatever the number will be, and also for the Tundra TRD Pro. If it in fact turns out to be a hybrid engine, the numbers is going to be quite a bit lower than those. So which brings up a very important question as to which sources are accurate and which one can we rely on for any kind of future scoops or future information about cars and trucks coming out of Japan. Well, there's a two and maybe possibly 2.5 sources that I think is most reliable. So one of them is something that we often refer to, and that's the Best Car magazine from Japan. And they have been the most accurate of all the different sources from Japan, as we've noticed with Land Cruiser spy rendering that was produced by them as early as a year ago. And it turned out to be so accurate that we know for sure the Best Car magazine editors had access to some kind of a spy photo directly from suppliers or some other sources. So Best Car Magazine clearly have some kind of a network with suppliers and or engineering companies, or maybe even directly with people from Toyota or other brands that feed them some information, and they are able to then create rendering based on those information. So they have been most predictable and most reliable when it comes to future information for all of the Japanese brands. And I have here with me the latest copy of the Best Car Magazine that just came out today. And so I'm going to talk about this in the next video in terms of what they're speculating for Toyota, for Nissan. Some really juicy information about the Nissan GTR that's not dead, but it will turn into some kind of a hybrid sports car, but they might also keep the gasoline version as well. So those are some information I'll talk about in the next video. But for now, I want to focus on how to decipher what is accurate and what is not. So Best Car Magazine is accurate. The problem is that they don't really have a proper website. There is some kind of pseudo website where they occasionally put some information, but it's about a month to 2 months behind the actual publication. And they don't like to put stuff on internet for some reason, mainly because they want people to buy their printed version of the magazine, either like a physical printout or the digital printout version, and they want people to sign up to a subscription, so they purposely keep information out of the normal public website. Unfortunately for Best Car Magazine, you have to have a Japanese credit card and Japanese address to subscribe to their digital version of the magazine. So most people don't have access to this one. And of course, I have a Japanese account and a Japanese address. So I get their latest version every month delivered to me. And so I'll do my very best to share that with you as soon as I get the new magazine. So Best Car Magazine is the most accurate, but it's the least accessible, which makes it difficult, of course. But hopefully I can be the bridge for that gap and provide you with information from this magazine, because it is the most interesting and most reliable. The reason why they are reliable is because they are directly connected to some kind of network, as I mentioned, and they actually quote the fact that they've spoken to someone within the industry or from a dealer network who have access to some information. So they even quote the sources or some form of sources, and therefore it's trustworthy and reliable. A lot of information coming from Best Car Magazine, and I can tell you that none of the speculative stuff from Creative 311 and Spider 7 related to the Lexus coupe or the Lexus LX750 have been talked about in Best Car Magazine. Another reason why those sources of information appear to be inaccurate. Another source of accurate information, which is even more difficult to access and find, is what we call the Model Magazine X. And this magazine actually has been around for a very long time. Even when I was younger, in the university days, they had this magazine. And they were always the go-to place for the latest scoop and information about the future models. But lately they have taken the back seat to the Best Car Magazine, and they have really restricted access to anyone who's not living in Japan. So I do have access to that magazine, but it comes a little bit later, and I can't access it the day that it's printed, unlike the Best Car Magazine, which I access it right away when it's published. But they have been reasonably accurate, but they have been slower than the Best Car Magazine, so I don't really rely on the Magazine X anymore. I primarily go to the Best Car Magazine, which has been more timely and they have been more accurate. The last source of information is the Car Top magazine. They always have a very bright cover page. They are not super good about predicting the future models. They don't focus so much on scoops. They're more focused on current trend, like a new aftermarket suppliers, and they are pretty good about presenting detailed information. And so I go to that magazine to read about what's happening in the current affairs, and then occasionally they do talk about the future models that is different from Model Magazine X or the Best Car. So I rely on all three information, the Model Magazine X, the Car Top, and Best Car, to then consolidate and to give you the most predictable information, the most accurate Japanese product information. So I will continue to do that, but I wanted to kind of give you a quick landscape of what's happening in the rumor mill, and to be careful what you believe and be careful what you watch. I'm going to really caution the general public and media from reading too much into the Creative 311 or Spider 7. the two most commonly quoted sources for spy photos and spy information, because they're actually the least accurate sources. So that's it for now. I'm going to talk about the information in the latest Best Car magazine in the next video, which talks about a whole variety of information. In fact, I didn't cover the last Best Car magazine, so I've got 2 months worth of Best Car magazine scoop and insight to share with you in the next video. So if you keep an eye on my channel, I'll give you as much update as I can. Thank you so much for watching. A lot more to share with you. Signing off for now.